For today's video, I'll speak on 5 players who I'm excited to watch over the preseason, or at least monitor their progress. So, these players with the right role, opportunity, if they tick a few boxes, pass the eye test probably most importantly in the preseason, then maybe we'll end up picking these players. But nonetheless, we'll start. The first player I like is Pat Lipinski. So he'll be 350k midfield only. So he should get opportunity at Collingwood. Maybe how much mid-time he gets depends on if DeGoey gets off or not, but we'll worry about that later in the season. Later in the preseason, rather. But yeah, I like the look of Lipinski. A lot of good attributes, few minor issues. When I read on the Dogs big footy board, the supporters seem to say just defensive stuff and his speed that sort of lets him down. So maybe he said he's working on his contested game over this preseason. So maybe if he can improve that, see his numbers in the preseason, we can give him a look. So with mid prices at this range, generally it's not necessary to start them. Even if they average say 95 to 100, you'll still be alright if you don't pick these picks. So we'll get a good look at him in the preseason. But given he averaged 80 a few years ago, I think 2 years ago, with about 40% CBAs, I tried to do some digging and only saw the numbers from a few games, but those games around 40% CBAs averaged 80. So with 60-70% CBAs, don't see why he can't go 90 average. Plus he's had more development since then. So see how he goes, Pat Lipinski. So I do like him. I think he's a good player. And having a really good preseason. Has massive endurance, which is a big plus as well. So I do like Lipinski, but it might be a little awkward to fit the structure, and the price is pretty horrible. So we'll see how that goes. The second player I'd like to see is Zach Butters. So Zach Butters says that he's training to be a full-time inside mid, which is the perfect role for Supercoach, especially now that he's available as a forward. Probably the two question marks are, can he be a consistent scorer over an entire season? And will he hold that role? As well as another one is durability. Is he? He's a little reckless. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but he's pretty tough. He's in and under a lot, throws his body around, so that can contribute to a little bit of injury risk, and we've seen that with him, I think once or twice. So, he's highly talented, 4th year full-time inside mid. The main thing I want to see here is how much mid-time he gets, and just how he looks over the preseason. Obviously, when he came back from injury last year, pretty rough. Apparently he said, I read somewhere that he wasn't walking properly, something like that, just because of the injury. So obviously won't be at your best if you can't do that. So Butters is an interesting one. I think if I'm taking a durability risk up forward, 1 at most 2, just because every single forward basically has some sort of risk attached. So we'll see. But I do like Butters. He's not in my team at the moment. See how he goes. Not really planning on it either. Just worried if he can maintain the role as well. So this is just a few things, but we'll see. Because we remember with Ken Hinckley, he said Houston will be he's a lock for the midfield, and within 2 or 3 rounds he was back to defence. So just because he said he's playing full-time mid doesn't mean he will. But if he's not, he's probably playing high half forward, which is okay. Means you can move up to stoppages a bit, so it's not the worst. So we'll see on that. Third player I'm excited to watch is Macrae Jr. So Finn Macrae. So obviously the name, legendary name, Supercoach Macrae name, thanks to his brother. But I liked Macrae. We saw Finlay Macrae. I liked him. I think it was first or second game, 4th quarter, had 12 touches. Got a little bit more mid-time later in the season. So what probably the most interesting thing is his brother Jack averaged 100 in his second year. So that's got us excited, I think. But only 200k in the midfield. Impressing in the preseason. That's the main thing. So I've read, when you read out who are the standouts, probably the two are Lipinski and Macrae from what I've read so far, but still very early. He's put on some size as well, which is pretty good. So 200k could be a midfield gem for us. So it would be unbelievable if he averaged 100, but that's very, very, very rare. Don't see that very often. I think like Walsh went 100 in his second year. It's those sort of talents that can do it, but I really like him. I think he's a good player. Neat kick as well. So has a few things going for him. Obviously he needs to nail a spot down, but I think he will. So if he passes the eye test, he's straight in the midfield. The fourth player, I've spoken about him a bit on this channel, is Jordan Dawson. So the main thing with Dawson, I think it'll be 540k a defender only. So unfortunately not defender mid, was a few percent off. But how the Crows use him, I remember Sydney saying, one of the coaches saying, Dawson is Mr. Fix-It. So they'll play him wherever. If they get an injury out forward, they can throw him forward, down back, wing, wherever. So that is a slight concern. That was at Sydney, but the Crows, there's every chance that there are some games he doesn't play the best role. So it's one where there's a lot of safe defense options where it's probably safer to go with those options. But Dawson can play a number of roles, and the main one is it was flagged that he might play inside mid. I'm not sure he will, but I think Nick said in a press conference, he can play inside mid, and I hope the Crows do use him there. But yeah, that could, he could be D1, D2 territory if that's the case. So we'll see what his role is and if he scores in that role, because, Seedsman does score fairly well off the wing. So maybe there is some point sharing there, because I think Sydney did use Dawson a hell of a lot, whereas the Crows can probably use Seedsman. Brody Smith can push up a bit. Just see how it sort of works in the Marsh games. Hopefully we get a few Marsh games, but we'll see. I think maybe 1 or 2 we're going to get, but the main thing with Dawson is role, but he has a durability. Nix has spoke really highly of him in the preseason, saying his footy IQ's off the charts, stuff like that. But yeah, big fan of Dawson. It is a slight risk to start him, but we'll see what the role is and how he scores in the preseason. Mostly the role is probably the most important thing. The fifth player and the final one that I'll definitely keep tabs on is Will Brodie. Now this is a pick where I think you've got to be careful, because there is opportunity at Fremantle, because who's the starting midfield right now? Fife might not play round 1, so it's Brayshaw, Sarong, and Mundy as well. So they need players. Darcy Tucker's there. They've got all these young mids now. Erasmus is a good chance to play round 1. Johnson, maybe not too sure, to be honest there, but maybe they throw Walters in there. Probably not, but Brodie, the opportunity is there, but there's a lot of kids that will be willing to take his spot. Valenti as well. I'm not sure what's happening with him though. But yeah, got to be careful here, because is he actually any good? VFL numbers are ridiculous, but it's VFL. I think he had a 44 touch game there. But for Gold Coast, didn't really impress, and kind of gets killed on the spread in the midfield. I think I watched one game of him, and he didn't really do a whole lot. So looked almost lost, I think. So wasn't great. But he has opportunity now to nail an inside mid role, because I don't think he got much mid time. I think they gave it to Fiorini. So an interesting one. Should be around 220k, and could potentially be a great player for us, but could be one where he just ends up on the outer. And similar Charlie Constable at the Gold Coast. Is he actually good or not? I'm not too sure. I think I like Constable a bit better than Brodie, but Brodie has the forward eligibility. So yeah, interesting pick, Will Brodie. But yeah, a few years in the system now, was a top 10 pick back in the day. So we'll see how Brodie goes. So my 5 players that I want to keeping a very close eye on in the preseason: Lipinski, Butters, Macrae, Dawson, and Will Brodie. Probably the one I'm most excited about is Finn Macrae. I think he's looking a lot bigger over the preseason, as I said before. So it could be a great rookie for us. So yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.